and it was really trying to tackle the big problems, infrastructure, transport, and also trying to locate areas of growth, areas to preserve, etc., etc. So really kind of more strategy than pure plans and designs. In that particular scale, actually, problems. These kind of problems are actually quite common, and the solutions are usually quite common. When you zoom in at a more detailed scale, a scale of, for example, a district or a neighborhood, that's where really it starts to get really specific to a place. And in that case, we always work with local offices. We have 40 offices around the world, and if we don't have a local office, we will work with a local partner. And again, I'm more specialized in I would say, in more the early stages of the projects, project definition and the concept design. So it gets really critical in terms of design at the end of the spectrum. At the beginning is more about the strategy. But really, to answer your question, finally, I think there is a great danger of this international style that you can see anywhere in the world. This is partly due, I think, to the fact that most projects go into the path of least disruptions, if that makes sense. And I'm translating directly from French, I'm sorry if that doesn't make sense in English. But it's following the path of least disruptions because of all these complex layers I was talking about in my introduction. You have a lot of different interests in a city, different lobbies, from private investors, local communities, municipality, departments between the municipalities, states, and all these have different agendas. And therefore, sometimes you end up in a project which satisfies no one, but doesn't make anyone angry either. So it's a bit of a bland solution. And this is called what I call the international style. And sometimes it doesn't make sense at all. For example, I was recently in Abu Dhabi, a very hot country, bloody hot, 40, 45 degrees. And the riverfront was a promenade like you could see in Nice, la Promenade des Anglais. Totally non-shaded, no one was using it, it's not appropriate. It's just this international style doesn't make any sense. So the danger is really in not taking into account the local conditions, local culture, and of course the people.
Well, I've got very many more questions that I want to ask to both of you, but just because it's a nice day and I don't want people to drift off, I'd be interested to see if there's anyone that has a particularly burning question from the floor so that we can make this more of an interactive discussion.
Well, I must say a couple of words, maybe.
Okay, please do.
As I said, what is interesting, what happened, and I'm afraid that it happens both in Moscow and in Tbilisi. It's the problem of communication between decision makers and public. I don't know how it happens in Tbilisi, but I'm afraid it's the same. Do you know what's next will happen in Tbilisi? I ask Tbilisi citizens. Living in Moscow and being even involved in architectural circles, I cannot say for sure what will happen next in the city, because it's kind of decisions which are taken without any consultation with the society, and I think that it's a very important thing what just Edward said, that he participates in many competitions, but I don't know, are there any urban design competitions in Georgia? I'm not sure, and the decision making is not transparent, at least in Moscow. We just learn about it after president or prime minister will suddenly say that we will increase the territory of Moscow twice, let's say, as it happened last summer. Last night we heard that Mr. Saakashvili plans to build a new capital somewhere in the middle of Georgia, I think it's interesting.
It's to move the parliament to the city rather than to move the capital.
It's already solved, yeah?
The parliament, it's not the moving of the entire city.
Okay. So it's also an interesting idea. I think that it's interesting how happens such solutions, it's how it could happen without consultations with the society, that suddenly the capital or parliament will be moved out of Tbilisi to somewhere in the middle of the country. And as far as I know, there is no architectural council in Tbilisi which is responsible for the development of the city. So it's a lot of intriguing things, as far as I know, Mr. Saakashvili announced himself the chief architect of Tbilisi. He actually takes responsibility for the development of the city. I think all these things are very typical for post-Soviet space, because the idea of the leader who is responsible for all the solutions in the city, it comes from the Soviet past, because only the bosses knew what is good for us, what is bad, and how we should live properly. And this way, how the urban development happens in many countries, post-Soviet area.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just to add to that, I think we're certainly moving away from this vision of this one-man vision, whereas it's a president or it's an architect. I think the time of the utopian city where one person could decide and believe what the perfect city would be, I think it's fairly over, but we still see in some part of the world this kind of the remaining of this kind of idea that has to come from the top. More and more, I think we're moving towards a more transparent process, because again, it's such a complex process, complex things. I can talk very quickly before opening to question on my experience, my only experience really, in post-Soviet towns in Russia. Well, it was in Moscow for Gorky Park. I think straight from the beginning, the client, the director of the park, wanted to have this transparent process. He knew he was almost sitting on a minefield. It was Gorky Park, one of the prime destinations for all people, all people in Moscow. A place where people take really proud of this park. So he knew he was sitting on a minefield, and he asked me straight away this question: how can I avoid the future bombs that are going to explode in my figure? So I said, the most important is a transparent process, open process. Put that in the open. Be very clear what you want, your objectives, but leave space for people to express themselves.